I was perched on the edge of my leather chair, my laptop open but forgotten, when the words hit me like a jolt. "There was screaming coming from your house," my neighbor said, her voice trembling over the phone. I gripped my mug a little too tightly, the warmth seeping into my fingers, grounding me as I tried to steady my racing thoughts. My apartment was quiet now, the soft hum of the city below my window a stark contrast to what she described. Everything seemed ordinary, my silk blouse brushing against my skin, the faint scent of my vanilla candle lingering in the air, but suddenly, it didn't feel ordinary at all. I could feel my pulse in my ears as I set the mug down, my phone buzzing again with notifications I wasn't ready to see. I slid open the app for my home cameras, my fingers hovering over the screen. The images loaded slowly, each frame frozen for a second too long. And then I saw it. Movement, shadows, the echo of someone's desperation. My breath caught, and I sank back, trying to reconcile the life I'd built, quiet, orderly, successful, with the chaos that might have been unfolding under the roof I thought was safe. I thought I was prepared for anything. I thought I had control. But as I stared at the screen, feeling the cold realization creep in, I knew that this time, I might be too late. I remember the day I finally left my parents' house, though at the time it didn't feel like a victory. It was a humid summer evening in New Jersey, and I was 19, clutching a tattered backpack filled with half-packed clothes and a notebook full of dreams no one at home had believed in. My father's voice had been sharp that morning, slicing through the air like a whip. "You'll never make it on your own, Emily. Obey or be cut off." The words echoed in my chest even now. My mother had said nothing, her eyes a mixture of guilt and exhaustion. They didn't understand my need to carve my own path, to breathe without the weight of their expectations pressing down. I felt that familiar sting of being dismissed, my voice and my ambitions treated like a joke. My hands shook as I zipped my backpack, the lump in my throat making it hard to swallow. I wanted to yell, to cry, to beg them to understand, but I had learned that nothing I said would change their minds. Before leaving, I stopped by my grandmother's old rocking chair in the corner of the living room. Nana had passed away 2 years prior, but she had left me a small leather-bound journal and a note. "The world listens to those who don't give up. Speak your truth, even when it scares you." I traced her handwriting with trembling fingers, letting her words sink in. That journal became my talisman, a reminder that even when everyone else doubted me, someone had always believed. I remember stepping out the door and feeling the first true sense of liberation. My apartment in the city was modest, a single room above a tiny bakery, but it was mine. Alone, yes, but free. I didn't know what awaited me, but I knew I couldn't stay in the shadows of a home that wouldn't nurture me. The fear was there, of course, the fear of failure, of rejection, of loneliness, but it was outweighed by a thrill I hadn't felt before, the exhilaration of owning my life. That night, I wrote my first entry in Nana's journal, the ink smeared slightly from my shaking hand. "I am enough. I will create a life that honors me, not the expectations of others." It felt like a vow, like a whisper to the universe that no one could silence me. And for the first time, I believed it. The first few months were brutal. I worked 2 jobs, barista by day, receptionist by night, sleeping on a thrifted futon that protested under my weight. Every evening, I'd sit cross-legged on the floor of my tiny apartment, journal open, sketching out plans for a life that didn't yet exist. My hands ached from typing resumes and proposals, my eyes stung from staring at the glow of my laptop late into the night. Doubt crept in more than once. Am I doing the right thing? Can I really make it on my own? But every time, I'd run my fingers over Nana's words in the journal and remind myself, speak your truth, even when it scares you. Then I met Margaret. She was everything I wasn't yet, confident, seasoned, and unapologetically successful in the tech world. I stumbled into her office for an internship interview, trembling, clutching a portfolio I had crafted in the hours after midnight. Margaret looked at me, really looked, and asked one question that changed everything. "Do you believe you can do this?" I hesitated, then nodded, and she smiled. That smile felt like a door opening. Under Margaret's guidance, I learned more than just coding and marketing strategies. I learned resilience. She pushed me to fail, to iterate, to take risks I would have otherwise avoided. My first project launch was a disaster, my code riddled with errors, but she didn't scold me. "Failure is your teacher," she said. "And you, Emily, are capable of learning faster than anyone I've seen." Slowly, I began to trust not only her judgment, but my own instincts. Small wins accumulated like breadcrumbs on a long trail. My first successful freelance contract paid enough for a proper apartment, not just a room above a bakery. The first time a client praised my work publicly, I almost cried at my desk, my fingers hovering over the keyboard like I didn't believe it was real. And then came my first big contract, enough to start building my own company, to think about branding, investment, and growth. I kept my achievements quiet from my parents, posting only modest updates on social media, never enough to reveal the scale of my success. There was a strange power in secrecy, in knowing that I had finally become the person I was meant to be, without anyone else's approval. Despite the long nights, the financial juggling, and the occasional pang of loneliness, I felt alive in a way I never had under my parents' roof. Each milestone was a declaration. I can do this. I am enough. I am in control. My apartment slowly transformed from a cramped studio to a space that reflected me: clean lines, vibrant artwork, shelves filled with books I'd once dreamed of owning. Every item, every detail, whispered the story of Emily, the girl who refused to be small. And all the while, the thought of my family's disbelief, if they ever knew, was a secret thrill. They had wanted me to fail. But I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. And the moment I stepped fully into this version of myself, I knew the day would come when they'd finally see it. Not the Emily they thought they knew, but the Emily who had always existed, quietly, fiercely, waiting for her chance. I hadn't expected them to come. Not really. But when I heard the familiar knock on my apartment door, I froze for a heartbeat, my fingers hovering over my phone. It was my parents. My father, with his sharp jaw and critical gaze, and my mother, her eyes cautiously wide, as if stepping into a stranger's home. I opened the door with a smile, letting them step inside. The apartment was no longer the modest space they remembered. Expensive abstract paintings adorned the walls. A sleek glass desk held a state-of-the-art laptop and meticulously organized portfolios, and the subtle scent of jasmine filled the air. Every detail spoke of a woman who had not just survived, but thrived. They looked around, stunned. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "Emily, this isn't how." His voice was a mixture of disbelief and something else, guilt, perhaps, or regret. I led them to the living area, where a large screen displayed the latest campaign my company had launched. "I know you didn't expect to find me here," I said calmly, folding my hands in front of me. "Or this." I let my words hang for a moment, letting the reality settle in. My mother's hand trembled slightly as she reached for a brochure on the coffee table. "Emily, you've built all this?" she whispered, eyes brimming with unshed tears. I nodded. "Yes. All of it. From the ground up. The apartment, the clients, the company, everything." I paused, watching the flicker of emotions cross their faces. Shock, shame, awe. It was like watching them process a truth they had never considered. My father finally spoke, his voice lower now, tinged with something unfamiliar. We didn't believe you could do it. We thought that I would fail?" I finished for him, keeping my voice soft but steady. "Yes. You thought I would fail because I chose to follow my own path, because I refused to obey blindly. But here I am, and I don't need your approval to validate my success." There was a long silence. I let it stretch, allowing them to absorb the contrast between the Emily they had known, the scared, uncertain girl, and the woman before them, composed, confident, and undeniably powerful. Then I pulled out my tablet, scrolling through a few key projects, each one a testament to the long nights, the failures, and the relentless effort they never witnessed. I want you to see this, I said. Not to impress you, but so you understand. I made my life my way. And I am proud of it. My father's shoulders slumped slightly, his eyes no longer sharp but haunted. My mother's lips quivered as she whispered, "We underestimated you, we didn't know." I let their words linger. Then I offered the truth they hadn't asked for but needed to hear. The Emily you tried to hold back, the Emily you doubted, she's gone. This Emily? She built herself from scratch, without anyone's permission. And she's not going anywhere. For the first time, I saw the reality sink in. The guilt, the astonishment, and perhaps the beginning of understanding. Their reactions were raw, unfiltered. And I felt a quiet satisfaction, not vindictive, but liberating. I had shown them the truth, and now, finally, it could no longer be denied. I watched my parents carefully, their expressions a mix of awe, guilt, and tentative hope. For years, they had held the power, the ability to dismiss me, to decide what my life should look like. But now, the balance had shifted. I was the one holding the cards, and I intended to play them wisely. "I can help you," I said, my voice calm but firm. "But not as you expect. Not by handing over success or absolving mistakes. If you want a place in my life, it has to be earned, and it has to reflect growth, not excuses." My mother blinked, unsure. "Growth." "Yes," I replied. "You can start by acknowledging the harm done, by shedding the toxic habits that kept us all trapped in fear. And then you need to pursue your own dreams. Not the ones you imposed on me, but the ones you abandoned or never admitted you had." My father's jaw tightened, but I continued, letting my words carry the weight of my own journey. "You wanted control, but you lost respect. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And now the choice is yours. You either step into change or you step out. The same goes for my mother. Both of you need to confront the past, take accountability, and start building something new, something real." I could see the tension crack, small fissures forming as they absorbed the conditions. My mother's shoulders slumped, tears spilling freely. I want to try," she whispered. "And my father said reluctantly, though I caught the glimmer of sincerity in his eyes. I offered a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Good. Then we begin there. I'm not closing the door, I'm opening it, but only to the future version of you who can rise without holding me down." I outlined practical steps for them. Therapy for old wounds, volunteering or work to reclaim purpose, and small acts of accountability that demonstrated real change. Each condition was tied to emotional healing, not punishment. I wanted them to grow, not fear me. Compassion and firmness danced together in my voice, as carefully orchestrated as the life I had built. For the first time, I felt a sense of equilibrium. The girl who had trembled under the weight of their judgment was gone. This Emily, the one who had clawed her way to independence, who had turned doubt into power, was fully in control. I could offer guidance, open doors, and share wisdom, but I would not compromise the life I had fought to create. By the end of that evening, there was a tentative understanding. Change would not be immediate, but the seed was planted. And that was enough. For the first time in years, I felt the old fear dissolve, replaced by quiet confidence. I had taken my life back, and now I could shape not only my own future but also offer a pathway for others, if they were willing to walk it honestly. Power was no longer a weapon. It was a responsibility. Weeks passed, and slowly, I watched the changes unfold. My parents weren't perfect. They still stumbled, hesitated, and sometimes retreated into old habits, but they were trying. My mother enrolled in a course she had abandoned years ago, discovering a passion for painting that she had long ignored. My father began volunteering at a community center, teaching young people the lessons he'd once refused to teach me. Each small step was a quiet triumph, a proof that growth was possible when accountability met intention. I observed them from a distance at first, giving space, letting them experience the consequences of their actions alongside the freedom of choice. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known existed in my family dynamic. The anger that had burned inside me for so long softened, replaced by understanding and compassion, but never at the expense of my own boundaries. One evening, I picked up Nana's old journal, the leather worn and edges frayed. I traced her words with my fingers. The world listens to those who don't give up. Speak your truth, even when it scares you. I smiled, realizing how far I had come. I had spoken my truth. I had faced fear, abandonment, and doubt. And now, I could live fully, unafraid of who I was or who I had become. My apartment hummed with the quiet comfort of hard-earned success. The city lights glimmered below, a reminder of the world I had conquered on my own terms. I reflected on the journey, the trembling hands of a 19-year-old girl, the lonely nights filled with doubt, the small victories that stacked up into triumph. I had endured, grown, and emerged stronger, wiser, and unapologetically me. I glanced at the camera feed from home, my sanctuary, the place that had once been a battlefield. Everything was calm now, the echo of screaming long gone. I allowed myself a deep breath, feeling the weight of fear lift, replaced by the serenity of control. And in that moment, I whispered to myself, almost as a mantra, I am enough. I am unstoppable. I am free. The journey had been long, painful, and at times terrifying, but it had led me here, to a life I had claimed for myself, fully and completely. And now, nothing, not doubt, not fear, not the ghosts of the past, could take it away.